Hey everyone, welcome to Sharing a Bowl with, presented by Superior Pho. I am your host, Chris Wynn, and today we have a very special treat. We'll be sharing a bowl with Billy Ritter, Cleveland ceramic artist, and we'll be taking a sneak peek into the magic of making an actual bowl. So come on. Hey Billy.
What's up, Chris?
How's it going?
Nice to see you.
Thanks, man. Have a seat. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So what are we doing today?
I was just throwing some pots. I actually was throwing some bowls for soup.
For soup.
Yeah.
Well, we're really excited to see what you come up with. Everything you make is incredible.
I appreciate that. And I feel the same way about your soup, so.
Thanks. Is it going to be something like that right there?
Yeah, so this, like with clay, when you make a thing, it's going to shrink a little bit. So this one's a little bit wider, right, and a little bit taller.
Okay.
But it's going to shrink like 14%. So when it gets fired, and then I'll trim it down. But these are definitely inspired by the bowls that you have at the restaurant.
Oh wow, yeah, that looks like
same
probably
kind
one
of
of our
portion.
large.
You can almost see the basil in there.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's see it.
Yeah, let's do it.
How does this work? I've actually never seen something made in person before.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, but basically you just kind of temper the clay, you condition it a little bit.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just kind of compressing it, and this helps the clay relax.
It makes it more malleable?
Yeah, it makes it more malleable, and I'm also kind of working that water into the clay.
Okay.
So then eventually through push and pull, it will get to a point where it just kind of settles out and it feels good and it's happy. And then from
it's happy.
Yeah, it's got to be happy. If it's got air pockets or things like that in it, as you start to work, those will just come back and work against you.
Make it more brittle or something?
It'll make it more difficult because air is lighter than clay, right? And then so it's going to spin kind of out of orbit. Right now you can see it spinning like really harmoniously.
Okay.
So you can open that up and start to create the bottom part. Maybe make this a little bit wider. Nice base in there.
Wow. How long does this process usually take?
For this bowl, I would say probably less than 5 minutes.
Oh,
but
wow.
That's if everything goes right.
Okay.
If it doesn't, then longer, or not as long.
So you're a professional. You do this day in and day out. How long does it take for a novice, like one of your students maybe, to make something like this?
Honestly, I think like in the first year and a half, you can start to develop skill. And I mean, that goes for anything, like cooking, learning dance moves, like anything, like any kind of skilled, playing a musical instrument, usually like a year and something.
And how long have you been at this?
I started doing this when I was in undergraduate school, which was a long time ago. But I've really been doing this here in Cleveland since graduate school, and that's been about 12 or 13 years.
Wow.
So, every day, just working on forms. And so this is like one facet, like functional ware, things that we use to eat out of. That's one facet of ceramics. But you have sculpture, you have non-functional things that are decorative. You can create environments, you could create literally anything you can imagine. You can probably make it out of clay, I would say.
How much of your work is comprised of functional versus maybe artistic?
I would say like 50, probably 50%.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you said each of these bowls only takes about 5 minutes.
Yeah, pretty quick. I always think of, there's like all those videos of somebody's grandma like making cavatelli or whatever, and it's like a motion, you know what I mean? Where like you get the sequence of the motions down and then it just kind of becomes passive, that you can do it pretty quickly. I like that one. Wow. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, that is a great pho bowl.
Maybe a little deeper. But
for
yeah,
more broth.
This one's pretty much done.
Cool.
So then from here, like what I'll do is I'll cut it off and then it will dry out a little bit, and then I'll trim away and cast away the parts of the clay I don't need anymore.
Okay.
And then it turns into a bowl.
How long does it take to fire the clay once you've finished?
Yeah, usually about 10 hours.
10 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if you wanted a really durable bowl, does it matter how hot you fire it or how long? How do you get a more durable bowl versus a less durable bowl?
You just want to fire the clay to the right temperature.
Okay.
So there's 3 different kinds of clay. There's low temperature clay, mid temperature clay, and high temperature clay.
What is this one?
This is a high temperature clay. So this is rated for like what's called cone 10, which is a measurement of heat. So that's like 2,350 degrees.
Wow.
So we want to go to that temperature and make sure it gets there and then shut it off.
Okay.
And not before and not after, because you could overcook it or undercook it,
Oh.
right? And nobody likes anything that's undercooked, right, Chris?
Right. Very funny. True. So if you overcook it,
Yeah.
what do you end up with?
You end up with a mess. So clay is really fascinating. And what it will do is it will fail, like at a certain temperature.
Okay.
And when it fails, what it does is it's pretty amazing. It starts to bubble, and then it starts to kind of split apart, and then it just collapses.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
And then if you undercook it,
if you undercook it, a couple things happen that
Yeah.
are really important. One, it's very porous,
okay.
so its absorption rate is a lot higher. This isn't good because as it takes on water and water evaporates, then things are prone to cracking, and it's not as I don't know what the word is, but it's not as good as if it were fired to the right temperature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Vitreous, I think is the right word.
Do you have any finished product that we can see?
I do. I want to show you some finished ones.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the middle, I have some ones that started like this, and then they were trimmed, and they're right on this cart behind
Cool.
us. So these ones have all been cut off and then trimmed.
Those are beautiful. They kind of remind me of, I don't know, like the terracotta warriors in China.
Sure, yeah, as they're drying out. This under part, any of these shapes, so like once this is cut away, there'll be a surplus of clay here, and then that's all cast away. And then maybe an indentation is created, like a foot on the bottom. And this really gives the bowl its appearance.
How do you create the foot?
Yeah, so
Do you
there's
flip it over? or-
there's these different tools that I do that with. I can show you, not a bowl, but I can show you that process on a plate if you want to see it.
Sure.
Yeah. So, so there's a plate.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Feel-
it's still
Feel how heavy it is?
it's still moist.
Yeah, right? Now, I think that'll fit on here. Here, let's see that plate. Yeah, so it's got a good tone to it, right? And it's pretty
Yeah.
firm. So this part, I want to cast all this away. And if you feel that, feel in there. Like grab like this. Feel
Yeah.
how thick this is,
Yeah.
right? So we needed that part to create it, but now we don't need that part. So I could put this on here and take a tool.
Oh.
And I
So all
kinda-
this,
yeah,
it
just
happens before you fire it.
Yeah, so right here, we're taking away that clay that's not essential, that was really important to throw, because it supported the curvature of the shape and all of that, but now it's a surplus of material, right? So what's great about this is that you can recapture all of this material, so it can go back into the process.
How much is the shape and how much you take away part of your consideration in terms of durability when you're creating functional wear?
100%.
Oh, okay.
100%. Yeah. My work that I make, it's sturdy,
Okay.
You know, so it feels like you're holding something. It's not heavy, but it's sturdy.
Okay.
I find that it promotes the survivability of the form because, you know, things get dinged up, right?
Yeah.
They get dinged up. So I'm just kind of peeling this away pass by pass until I get it to a point where it feels right. That looks pretty nice.
That looks so cool.
But maybe we can smooth it out a little bit here.
I'm really glad our guests get to see this. Super cool.
So there's that. Let's see.
Wow.
So it's still really wet, so it's gonna feel extra heavy. You wanna hold it?
Sure. Thanks.
Feel how wet it is still?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
heavy.
A lot of that weight is the water, and as the water goes away,
It'll
feel
get lighter.
very
Okay.
much, yeah.
Cool. And then you said it shrinks about 14%.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. And where do you notice that size? Like the
Everywhere.
diameter? Everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll shrink horizontally and vertically, but probably this much concentrically. Like.
Okay.
So the form will feel the same visually.
That's super cool.
A plate of pho.
Yeah. You know, this would be cool for our rice dishes.
Yeah, the broken rice.
Yeah, broken
Totally,
rice, grilled
totally.
pork, and
So
that's
then
really neat.
from here, it just slowly dries out. It goes to the kiln. It gets fired once. And that first firing is the bisque firing. And then after that, it will get glazed, and then it gets fired again.
So,
And so,
can you tell me more about your glazing process?
yeah. So I mix all my glazes from scratch. They're all old recipes that are tried and true. I stay away from things that have a lot of heavy metals in them, like cadmium, barium, cobalt. Those all create beautiful colors, but they're kind of caustic to work with.
Okay.
It's not caustic as an end product, but so I just don't work with those. So a lot of the colors that I have are naturally derived by like iron, different kinds of iron, oxides, stains, things like that.
So if you had a store-bought glaze, they often have heavy metals.
They might,
Okay.
and they'll say, if they're food safe or what have you. But again, as long as they're cooked to the right temperature, you're good.
Got it. I remember one time we were talking about glazes from other parts of the world and how
Sure.
recipes can change.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, over time, like a lot of it was rooted in what people had access to. Like, if you look back as far as, and I was just at Cleveland Museum, thinking of the Wari tribe. Like the Wari tribe and a lot of like the ancient tribes, like they only had access to earthenware clay. Maybe they found some oxides, like yellow iron oxide or black iron oxide. Maybe they found like a kaolin, like a white slip. And so that became their color palette of what the work is derived from. I think of like ancient Jomon pots, right?
Yeah.
There were no slips or oxides, but the forms were exquisite. And everything was fired with wood, and they're just so good. But the clay and the way that it's fired, that creates the color palette.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the recipes for your glazes, where did you come up with them? Are they inspired or are they actually
Yeah,
tried and true
totally.
recipes from?
So from books or passed down from friends.
Okay.
And then there's so many different glaze books. The things that changed over time was like things that we knew. So for instance, like we used to use uranium to make yellow.
Oh,
Like it makes a really great yellow, Chris.
yeah. But it causes cancer.
Right, right. And it glows in the dark.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. And like we used lead glazes up until the 60s or 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, so lead is like a frit in glaze is amazing. It makes a beautiful waxy surface. It never crazes. It stays the same since the beginning of time, but it's lead,
And
so.
it can leach if you have hot foods or water
Right,
in it. Okay.
right.
Okay.
So like glazes change over time as we develop consciousness about what's in the material.
Is there a Billy Ritter signature glaze?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No. I think there's things I've done over the years that people associate with my work, but yeah.
Like what, for example? Do you have a...
Well, I could show you in the shop.
Yeah, let's go.
So this one actually is for you, Chris. So
Oh, thanks, Billy.
So
cool.
This is a series I've done for a long time. So a lot of people know that as my work. And it's just kind of these oxide drawings on porcelain. So I think a lot of people, when they see my work, or see this, they think of me.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
so this is iron oxide?
This is a black oxide.
Black oxide?
Yeah.
Beautiful green.
This other series too, this black and white series, and these two series alone, people know this as my work. I've done a lot of this, and then I think beyond that would be these sort of, and this is a great bowl of pho right here.
Oh my gosh!
Like this is my wood-fired work, and this work.
This is like a small for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Small bowl.
Yeah. The wood-fired work, it really speaks for itself. This is not glazed. This is raw clay.
Oh wow!
That goes into the kiln for 50, 60 hours, and so what you see on the surface of this is just fire and time, which amazes me always.
If it's not glazed, is it then like porous or?
That's a great question,
durable?
Right? So. With the accumulation of the wood ash in the kiln, right, it starts to cover the piece. And then as it covers the piece, that surface, it starts to melt. And so this whole surface, this is, the collection of wood ash and then it melting. And then this creates the glazed surface.
Oh.
So it is glazed.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And is it food safe?
Totally.
Totally food safe?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Does it hold up to time when it's, well, you said it's glazed from wood ash.
Right.
So it's not like it's peeling or anything like that over time?
No. That is a thing with wood-fired work that can happen. It can like craze or crawl or shiver, where pieces of the glaze start to kind of come off and release over time. That usually happens when the kiln isn't cooled properly.
Okay.
Because this part, this glaze part, and then the clay part, they're really two different layers. And so when they start like shrinking independently, it can make the glaze crack and pop and fall off. But we know how to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Which is like a finishing process or something?
It's really just cooling the kiln, and it's hard to explain, but that collection of wood ash, like when to stop accumulating wood ash, when to melt it, and how long to let it cool.
Okay.
It's a real exact science. You'll have to come out to one of the wood firings and watch it and happen.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
Cool. So the glazing station.
The glazing station.
Can we see that, or is that?
It's in the back. Yeah, we can look there.
So it's all these glazes that give us all these colors.
Totally. And it depends on what feldspars and frits, and it's just science.
Yeah, cool.
So I have a glaze here that I use a lot, this Celadon. And so I'll mix this up real quick, and I'll show you how I put this on here.
Cool.
It's actually easier than you might think.
I was expecting that to be a lot more messy than it was.
Right? Sometimes it is. So the way I like to do this is I like to get a scoop, and I like to just pour it in there. And then as I pour it in there, I'll just pour it out of there. And then really just in the blink of an eye, you can see it dry. Wow. Yeah, and so
Oh,
now
wow.
the only thing left is to deal with the outside part, and an easy way to do that is just dunk this in there.
How do you deal with the drippy marks, like the
Yeah,
runniness?
sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't want that. So like right now, there's a drip there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could leave that, or I could wipe it away. I find though, it's really become like part of my aesthetic. When like when I try to overwork something, it just feels overworked,
Okay.
and then it doesn't feel authentic. But if it has too many drips, then you have to wipe some off.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because then it just looks sloppy.
Yeah, right. This one though, like this would melt into the equation.
Oh, it
Or
melts.
I could just do that and it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one looks pretty great. I left the bottom part open, and I think that'll be nice. So you'll get to see the raw clay, and then this will be blue.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that weird? So the yellow is going to be blue.
Do you have a finished one?
I do. Actually, that bowl right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if we look at the back part of it, that's the same color, right?
Oh.
So how does yellow turn blue anyway, right? Thermochromic shift. So it's a thing you know from cooking, actually.
Yeah.
Meat is a great example. So when
Sure.
you get the what is it, the number 2?
Yeah. The
It's got
round pho.
Yeah, the eye round. So like when it goes in, it's pink, but by the time you get all your stuff ready to eat the soup, it's already turned brown.
Right.
So that's it for glazing.
Awesome.
And then from here, the last real pit stop is the kiln.
Yeah. Let's see how everything's fired up.
Sure. Let's go over. You can imagine how many bowls would fit in here, right? So just these ones behind us, like we could fit a lot in here, probably like 80 or something, right?
Oh, so there are multiple levels.
Yes, there's multiple levels. So these shelves begin, and then what we'll do is we'll start to take bricks and build this up shelf by shelf, right? And then this will get stacked with all of the work, and then we'll add more levels, more work, more levels. At the end, this opening part, it gets bricked up. We have all of these bricks over here, right? And all of these bricks get stacked in here, and then we close this door, and then we'll start the burners and start the firing arc.
So it's a gas burning.
Yeah,
kiln.
gas
Okay.
burning kiln, updraft.
This is so cool. Does it get really hot inside the studio?
It gets toasty. So
Toasty.
on the cold days, people always come by and hang out because it's nice and toasty in here.
And then during the summer?
It's unbearable.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. I normally have shorts on and a headband. It's intense.
Yeah.
It can get into the hundreds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But again, it only lasts for 8 to 10 hours. So
Where are the controls?
I am the controls.
You're
No,
the-
they're in the back.
Oh, wow. So you actually have to get right next
Yeah.
to the super hot kiln.
Mm-hmm. It's really 3 parts. So this line here is the main gas line, and then bezo valve area. Here, air is introduced, right? So you can control the air from this switch.
Oh.
So how much air you add.
The more air,
and
the
then-
hotter it gets.
Exactly. And then how much fuel, is it rich, is it lean? How much is going to the burner? And then lastly, the damper. So the damper ultimately controls the constriction of like how tight this flame circle's passing through here. So I can get all these adjustments with the fuel and the air just how I want it, but then I can constrict it and reduce it. Reducing in a gas-fired kiln is very much like smoking in a barbecue process.
Okay.
Like controlling that amount of smoke. Like if you run with your smoker open the whole time, you're not smoking anything, right?
Right.
You're barbecuing, but you're not smoking. And so the smoking part of creating that rich reduction atmosphere, that's what makes the colors really good in most glazes. But some glazes look great oxidized. So like with the dampers wide open so it can get all the oxygen that it wants.
Okay.
Yeah. And I make those conscious decisions when I fire my work based on what I want the final product to look like.
Billy, that was awesome, man.
That's so
Thank
rad.
you so much.
Thank you,
for the
Chris.
tour. How would you feel if we went over to Superior Pho right now and shared a bowl?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
All right.
So this is where the magic happens, everyone. It's where we record every Monday. Billy, how long have you been a customer here?
So my first studio was in the Artcraft building, which is like right across the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got there in 2013 or 14. So I've been coming here for 10 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay. Did you hear that they're going to turn into the new police headquarters?
I did.
Yeah.
Tears of sadness.
We're going to miss having you over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Well, I'm just across the other bridge in Clark Fulton, so at the Hildebrand building.
Yeah.
So I do always come back.
Yeah, that's not too far. I think it was, 8 minutes? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this place I said this to you before, like, I don't know what's in your chicken soup, but all I know is
It's not chicken.
if I feel something coming on, like I'm starting to not feel a little under with the weather,
Yeah.
and I come straight here and I eat that, I'm good. Like later that same day, I feel 100%.
So that's actually what I tell people whenever they say they're getting sick. Don't go for the beef. There's something about beef that, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily help when you're sick.
Sure.
But the chicken, when you have the chicken, you just feel better.
It's true. It's so true. So it's a secret weapon.
You were talking about something else, turmeric, ginger shots or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
so
that?
another secret weapon, one of the other great places here in Cleveland is Beet Jar, which is over in Hingetown, and they have this, it's called a flu shot, and it's like turmeric, apple cider vinegar, lemon juice. It's really intense, but that in your chicken soup, that's the tag team combo.
Nice. What do you get as far as pho when you're not getting the chicken pho? Do you get like a beef pho at all?
I think it's a number
Number
three.
three?
Yeah.
So that would be the brisket and the eye round one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the best of both worlds.
Cool. Would you like number 3 right now?
Yes.
All right, cool. I'm just gonna go make one, whip one up, and bring one out for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, all right. I'll be right back.
All right. It's like a dream come true.
All right, here we are. For most Vietnamese people, the key to eating this is you gotta eat it really hot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's gotta be piping hot, and we don't serve it until our stock pots are at a rolling boil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So please dig in.
Yeah. So, Chris, I've always wanted to, because I've never had pho with you.
Yeah.
How do you dress it?
So if it wasn't my own pho,
Yeah.
right? If I'm eating somewhere else or trying someone else's pho for the first time, I don't dress it at all. And actually, Northern Vietnamese style pho is not meant to be dressed. If you go to Vietnam, you won't even get any of those accoutrements.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, none of that. Bean sprouts and the basil and all that stuff is like a Southern thing. So in the United States and a lot of places in the world, yeah, please go ahead. We have all of the side stuff, but this is a Northern style pho. If you go to Vietnam, this is all you're gonna get. And it actually might even be a little bit more basic than this.
Wow.
And then if you go to the South, they have all kinds of like fresh herbs and the lime and all that stuff. So yeah, please dig in.
It looks delicious.
But it's kind of interesting too, because there has to be something, there's something to be said about pho post Vietnam War, like post 1976. Because if you go back to Vietnam right now, most of their pho is actually not like this, neither in the South nor in the North. And another thing that Southerners do, here too, in the United States and other places in the country, like they actually put fish sauce in their broth.
Oh, right.
But Northerners don't, because there's a lot less fish sauce used. They're not near the coast, whereas in the south, since they're closer to the coast and the Mekong Delta, they're using fish sauce with everything way more frequently. So
this is the part though, is the broth.
yeah, the broth.
Right?
Right, exactly. That's the first thing you have to do is taste the broth. And so a good pho broth should be nice and clear, which is indicative of the fact that it's been brought to a boil slowly and cooked at a low boil instead of at a raging boil.
What is that super satisfying flavor in there? And it's not salt. It's like that umami kind of, it's like almost mushroomy. Is that the secret ingredient?
Yeah, no. It's a marriage of all the flavors, man. It's for me, I think that's what's extracted when you boil the bone, the bones for a long time. And actually, that's one of the process-oriented things that we learned over time is if you don't get that part right, and there's very specific techniques that are involved, which I will not disclose. If you don't get that part right, it's just not gonna taste the same. You're not gonna have that same body or that same finish. So,
well, that finish is delicious.
thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. So when you taste our pho, for me, there's a process, or any pho out there, you're gonna taste the nose, the body, and the finish. Nose should be like very subtly, or it should be very subtle and hit your nose with the spices that we use. So on the nose is where you'll taste the star anise, the cardamom, the cinnamon, that type of stuff, traditional pho spices. And then the body, where sometimes pho restaurants mess up, is, it should have that very nice like beefy flavor, that flavor that when you eat something that's hearty,
Yeah.
that's what you get.
Yeah.
And then the finish is, it's going to be different for every pho, but a lot of times different pho restaurants will have like either a savory finish or a sweet finish. And that's just each place's different family recipe, so to speak.
Yeah. I think this has a blend of both, but
And
in no specific direction, like an equal perfection.
so that's part of what like the hard part is, right? It's getting that balance. And I think that's one of the reasons that we are so well known, at least in Cleveland, is because we've struck that balance between savory and sweet, and it's very, very difficult. And I think that a lot of places it's either too salty or too sweet.
Yeah. But this nails it.
Thanks, man.
This nails
Appreciate that.
We should eat our soup now.
Yeah, until next time, you guys. Guys, we had so much fun today. Thank you for joining us on our first video episode of this podcast. And if you want to see more, definitely follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok, where you can find more of that stuff. And if you just want to tune into the podcast, definitely find us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and yeah. So until next time, you guys, thank you again, Billy.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure, and let's enjoy this pho.